I'm Kevin Power, and this is SaskScapes, the podcast featuring stories of arts, culture, and heritage in Saskatchewan. Welcome to episode 89 of SaskScapes. This episode is sponsored by the Southwest District for Culture, Recreation, and Sport. To learn more about the district, visit gosouthwest.ca. You'll also find that link in the show notes, along with the links mentioned during this episode. Okay, you know that saying, it takes a village to raise a child? Well, what about it takes a village to raise a village? Or it takes the children to raise a village? Well, any of these apply when it comes to this village. Welcome to Hazlet, Saskatchewan. Located less than an hour's drive northwest of Swift Current, Hazlet has heart. And the pulse that drives this village is its volunteerism. The folks of Hazlet don't see volunteering as a chore. To them, it's a lifestyle. It's what fuels their love of community, and it starts from a very young age, and it's been that way, well, pretty much since the community was born. You know, I've had a lot of fun during my travels recording SaskScapes, and this episode ranks right up there when it comes to a good time. I'm joined by 8 members of the community, and man, did we laugh. I hope you'll be inspired to participate in your community the way these folks do. And if you're looking for a place to discover this year, you gotta check out Hazlet and know that you are about to meet what they call good people. So, I'm in the town of Hazlet. I finally made it here thanks to the GPS known as Lindsay, who has been largely responsible for helping me find my way here. And I'm so happy to be here. I was telling somebody about all of the things that are going on. I was on the website and I was reading all the things that you guys have going on. I said, they've got more going on than in Saskatoon. You guys have a lot going on for a small town of 126 plus the surrounding area, taking it to 300-ish, give or take. Yeah. So I've got a great crowd joining me, and I'm going to just walk around and get to know who we'll be listening to. So first off, we've got Dustin.
I'm Dustin Sletton. I'm born and raised in Hazlet here. I farm and work in the oil patch and president of the local Lions Club here and sit on the board for the local rink and the park board, and I guess that's about it.
So you went to school here even?
I did, yep.
Wow. So have you lived anywhere else at any other time?
Yeah, a few other places. Went to school in Lethbridge and lived in Brooks, Alberta.
So you hit the big town.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Great, thanks. And next we have
Terry Erdlin.
Terry number 1.
I moved here in 97 for a job as farm administrator, village administrator. And we're staying here till our kids graduated, and I'm still here.
And no plans to leave?
Nope. No, my daughter's married a farmer here, so there's grandchildren involved. So
speed of life that agrees with you?
Yep.
That's great. Thanks. And next we have the famed Lindsay, who makes the world go round.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Alaban, and I've lived here since I was 7. Parents moved back from Calgary to farm. I've been here mostly all of that time since then. Went away to school for a little while in Lethbridge as well. And I'm the Economic Development Officer. I also help with the Chinook International Program, doing recruitment and kind of managing that program at our high school. And I'm also on some volunteer boards. And I like
Face it, you're famous. You're famous. You've been written out. What did you say?
I like Hazlet.
Well, that's a good thing. You're responsible for some pretty phenomenal things that are happening in this town, including the Bethany, which we'll hear more about. And next we've got Lindsay's sister.
I'm Carla Sletton. I also went away to Lethbridge to university for 5 years and then came back here. And I am a mom and a wife, farmer's wife.
Have you met Dustin?
Yeah.
I just put the two together. Doesn't take me long.
And I am on the rink or the hall board and the EDC. And yeah.
Well, you like this place. You were taking me on it. You guys took me on a tour, and
I do love this place.
yeah, you can tell. You have great enthusiasm for the place, for the joint, I was going to say. Next, we got Barry.
I'm Barry Zinn, and I've lived here my entire life and farmed and worked in the oil patch like Dustin, and I like Hazlet too. I'm on several things. I try to help out with everything I'm asked to do, and anything I can help out with, and Secretary of the Lions Club. Dustin's my fearless leader, and try and help him out, and I guess that's about it for me.
Great.
Whatever anybody needs, I try to help out.
Other than the fact that you've just gotten back from Mexico and you have a tan that everybody's envying. And next we have...
Hi, I'm Chad Andrews. I'm from Hazlet, Saskatchewan.
I've heard of the place.
I've lived here my entire life, went to university, took drama.
Oh, did you?
It was fun. Not practical.
That's okay. I have a Bachelor of Music degree, and my career has been in theater, so I sympathize with you. You grew up and got a real job?
Then I took mechanics, and then I came back and farmed.
Right.
And that's what I do currently. I am on multiple boards, Lions, rink. I take care of the ice, the curling ice at the rink, and I teach high school kids how to curl and rookies that have never curled before.
Tell me you're on part of the community theater group.
Yes, I have been on the Sandhills Players. I've acted lights and sound. Terrible sound guy, but I've fun on stage, apparently. And I'm the sucker that'll climb up the turbine, and there's not a lot of guys around here that want to go up that thing. I'm not afraid of heights. I'm just afraid of the ground.
Yes, I've witnessed your ground here. You have a lot of mud currently.
Yes.
A lot. And then we have Terry number 2.
Terry Bailey, and I was raised here all my life. I've sat on a few different boards through the years, and I am lucky enough and honored to be the mayor of Hazlet, and no better place to live in the world than Hazlet, Saskatchewan.
You're talking to the mayor.
I knew that the mayor was going to be here. I didn't know which one was the mayor. Well, Your Honor, it's a great privilege to actually meet you. And you'll be happy to know that I met a couple of weeks ago one of the listeners of the podcast from Hungary. And she was in Saskatoon, and she recognized me, and she came up and approached me out of nowhere and said, I'm from Hungary, and I listen to the podcast all the time, and it's because of the podcast that I learned about Saskatchewan and came to visit. So now the audience in Hungary has met the mayor of Hazlet. And then next we have...
I am Janice Stock. I grew up in Alberta, but married a Hazletite, and we came here to farm many years ago. We raised our children here. We've been very involved. Our whole family has been very involved in the community. I've been the secretary-treasurer of the Sandhills Players since 1989. It's wonderful. We've seen our age group go through Sandhill Players, but now we have the second generation on stage, and so it's been very rewarding.
That's so great that you guys have community players in such a small town.
No,
That's
it's
fantastic.
been wonderful. it's so fun to see our young people on stage, but we've had some family members on there together, which
nice.
has been really fun.
Nice. Now, you just casually said the word Hazletite. Is that officially what people from Hazlet are called? Or you just
Hazletians sometimes.
Hazletians.
Okay,
That sounds like something that needs a diagnosis.
whatever comes to our
Hazletians.
mind, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
I'm currently on the Economic Development Committee.
so you've met Lindsay.
I have met Lindsay, yes.
Face it, you all know each other. The town of Hazlet basically all knows each other. Because we were driving by and there were some strangers in town walking on the side of the road.
Wow.
Yeah,
You
which,
actually pulled into town and asked the guy where the hall was.
I did.
I have no idea.
the one person walking on the road. I've never been here before, he said.
Oh, that's funny.
Trust me to find the one person after.
Yeah, the chances were not good that
Well,
that would happen.
From the beginning, Siri chimed in. I didn't have things going on for me at all during this trip in. So, we're here to talk about volunteerism in Hazlet. And it's not a subject that is to be shrugged at, because small towns that I've been to often suffer from the problem of really not being able to generate a lot of new blood in the volunteer community. And there are a lot of the old guard, as I call them, that have been carrying the torch for a really, really long time. And they have often said, we have no idea who's going to carry this on. We hope that our younger generation stays interested, but everybody gets up and leaves and moves away, and we're the people that stay here and basically keep things moving and keep the history alive. And such is not the case in the town of Hazlet, where you guys seem to just have a great success rate in having volunteers be so much a part of the community and the growth of the community. And Lindsay's filled me in on just how extensive that volunteerism goes, all the way to the school kids, which you seem to be able to sucker them into doing a lot of stuff, including putting siding on buildings and stuff. So we'll start with the mayor. So, Mr. Mayor, tell me, to what do you attribute the success that you guys are having in soliciting all this volunteerism among the younger set? Hey, it's Kevin. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Just a quick reminder that the SaskScapes podcast is available for free on your favorite podcast app, or you can stream it from your browser. Check out the show notes for the link. On the SaskScapes homepage, you'll notice something new under the logo called SaskScapes Plus. You can't miss it. There's a big button saying support with a heart icon next to it. I'd love it if you could click on that button and help keep this podcast series going. When SaskScapes launched in May 2014, it was the first podcast in the province celebrating arts, culture, and heritage. In fact, you'd have been pretty hard-pressed to find any Saskatchewan podcasts. So I'd like to think that we paved the way. It's been because of your support that this podcast is now in its 9th year. Okay, that's it. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
Well, I think it's just always been the way that it is in this community, and people, it's just kind of handed down from one generation to another, and people seen their parents volunteering, and so it's just kind of a normal thing to do. And I think, over the years, we've been able to turn the reins over to the next generation, I think, and still stay involved, but let the next generation run with things. And I guess, we all made mistakes, but the older ones are always there to kind of keep things on the straight and narrow, maybe. And the young people have lots of good ideas, so change is a good thing. And if you ask people, I think, in the community what they do to volunteer, there would probably be lots of things that they do that they don't consider volunteering. They just, it's just always things that they've done and
Right.
probably don't even really consider it volunteering, but but it is.
Sure.
And I don't know. I think it's just a natural thing to do.
Well, one might say that this community is built on volunteerism.
Well, there's a lot of things that wouldn't never have gotten done if it wasn't for volunteers.
Right.
Either there's not enough money to hire somebody, or and people just naturally dig in and help out.
And do you think that's because people that live here largely stay here? That there's that sense of there isn't or is there a feeling of this place being quite transient? And this is now open to all of you. I'll run around to you. So
I think two things is we're lucky enough to have the oil patch here, which has kept a lot of young people here.
Right.
And agriculture has kind of turned around in the last few years, so a lot of the young guys have come back to farm. So we have, probably more young families than a lot of communities that don't have the oil patch maybe or such a prominent agricultural background. So
Sure.
I think those two things probably have helped
Right.
us.
So let's talk about some of these volunteers and what things they're doing, some of the projects that have happened in Hazlet recently and that are continuing to happen, and what the volunteers, young and old, are sort of doing. So the wind turbine, how did that happen? And the volunteers that were involved in that did what?
It was a vision.
It was a vision? Whose vision was it originally?
It was Christy Sletton's vision. Is that right?
Yep.
She thought this plan of getting a wind turbine to power our rink and whatever we use or don't use and go back in the grid and we get a credit kind of thing.
Right?
It's a great idea and it does work when the thing works. It's just, it's mechanical and it likes to break down once in a while.
And you climb up it and fix it.
Yes.
Do you fix a wind turbine from the top down, or is the mechanism
There's
ground
a
level?
lot of stuff at the bottom, but you have to climb it every 6 months to grease it.
Right.
But when something goes awry, you have to go up to the top. And it's 90 feet up, and you find out how out of shape you are when you get to the top.
Oh, is it stairs going up?
Ladder.
A
Straight
ladder.
Up.
Oh, right.
There's a ladder inside. You're all harnessed up, strapped up.
So, were the students involved in partly making this happen?
I think the vision of the project was to create a sustainable rink so that we can keep our rink complex going, even if our population dwindles and power costs go up. So it came out of the idea of renewable energy, and we got a large government grant for it. So it was like a big project of the wind turbine, but the biggest part of it was building or renovating our rink so that it had artificial ice and a new plant. So we had to rip all the cement out of our ice, like our skating rink, and redo and put a whole bunch of pipes through it, and that's what the kids helped with. So we had like the entire community. The rink was shut down for an entire winter, and everyone in the community was like shift work, people just coming in. Everyone was bringing food. The kids were tying off little, there was lots of little tedious things to do.
Rebar ties.
You didn't make the kids climb up to do the work at the highest point. Get up there, kids.
This was in the ring.
Yeah, this is inside.
Oh, actually in the rink.
Yeah, so it was more than just the wind turbine. It was all about creating a sustainable rink complex so that we can forever use it and not have a worry of having to close it down.
And is the most efficient way of doing that to have a power by wind turbine?
Well, I would say if we could redo the project, we'd probably look into other options like geothermal or solar, just because there's less moving parts.
Yeah.
With a wind turbine, they're heavy with maintenance. So,
but they look cool.
Yeah, and that was kind of one of a really big project. So that was like $500,000 was spent there with the new artificial ice plant, new cement, wind turbine, and all of that. So that was a big project for the entire community. And I think that's kind of what set, at least in the last 12 years, really set the pace for what we were going to do with the community. And it's all about just creating a sustainable place for us to live. And so that's basically what we
Yeah.
That's the idea behind the.
And those
that
kids
project.
must feel really, really proud of being a part of, let's face it, the rink is a major hub of any small town.
Well, I'd say since that project, we've had more kids coming back to skate here. Or, there's more things happening there.
That's because we have ice.
Yeah, and we have ice. Our season's longer because we can have the kids can skate more consistently there.
Right. So, who wants to talk about another major project in Hazlet that has really been built on the backs of volunteerism?
The rink was originally built by
Yeah, you should talk about
The rink was a, yeah?
we lost our rink to a fire. And
In what year was that?
88. And it was a tough time. The farming wasn't very good then, and there wasn't a bunch of money, and we did get some grants, and we worked at long hours to building and both gathering funds. It wasn't, because there wasn't a bunch of funds out there to be had, so we tried to get people's entertainment dollar, and everybody used their imagination and come up with some great ideas.
the Sandals players.
Yeah, this is one of them.
Oh, yes. So the community theater group was, yeah. And so what, you were putting on dinner theater?
The very first production was very basic. It was, I think, a 2-act play or something, but it got such a great reaction that from there it grew. And, we used to do 2 productions a year and do 2 nights of dinner theater, 1 night of just evening theater, and then Sunday was always a matinee.
Right.
So, in those beginning years, we did 4 productions each, 4 shows each production.
Right. And so we're talking, this was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So
Huge fundraisers
what was the population of Hazlet back then?
It had been pretty close to the same.
Still pretty
I
much-
think.
yeah, pretty
we
much the
don't-
same.
Yeah.
2 more people in the area.
Maybe a little bit less than.
But it's still something when you think about it. I mean, you're not a huge town, and it sounds like you'd be pretty hard pressed to find someone who hasn't been involved on some level in making this community what it is today, which is pretty
They
great.
weren't on stage, they were making food,
Right,
or serving, or,
right.
And I'd say that's another part where the kids are involved. They come and serve, they do dishes, they help set up tables. At least the years that I've been around, I've
Right.
only been around for a portion of it, so.
That always didn't do the dishes.
Yeah, and that includes our international students that are here too. So we are expanding our volunteerism pride to all those kids that spend 6 months or a year with us studying at the high school.
Right, so talk a little bit about that international student program.
Well, that kind of came about because our school was lacking population. We were down to about 35 kids in 2006. Another idea of Christy Sletton, who is kind of a visionary and gets us set up and sets us on our way. But she kind of started bringing in kids in 2006 through other programs. And then eventually we got our own program set up, and that came from lots of volunteerism from the local people here. Taking kids in to be the host family for the students. There was tons of fundraisers for that. I wasn't really around the first beginning part of it, but they did lots of big fundraisers, raising, $25,000 in a night to go towards setting that kind of a program up. And we've sent people from our community around the world to recruit people to come and promote our program. And eventually we've been getting students from all over the world. We've had over, I'd say, close to 150 students now spend short or long-term stays here. And tons of them come back, and they bring their families back.
And the kids from here who grew up with those kids have gone all the way around the world to see them again.
Oh, right. And so when the international students have come, they've also been part of the volunteerism in the community and build.
Yeah.
So
There's actually
There's
actually a funny story of a student serving. He was helping pass out napkins at one of the dinner theaters, and he was from Brazil, cutest little guy, and he was passing things around and helping out, and he was holding out a napkin and saying, toilet paper? Toilet paper? We quickly corrected him.
And those kids also are like in the drama productions within the school.
Oh, right.
Too. So it's kind of cool to watch.
There was a student, one of our very first years, from Colombia. His name's Santiago, and he was really into the theater production we did from the school. And he's actually a really well-known actor now in Colombia, and he's on a Netflix show called Narcos. And
wow,
yeah, he's done really well.
And he originally,
Hazlet is responsible for creating stars on top of it all.
Netflix star.
Have you designed any of the menus to reflect some of the cultures that are coming here?
We don't change the roast beef and potatoes.
Oh, it's always roast beef.
We haven't got that far yet. we have had like really nice international nights where the community comes in and we do kind of like a potluck where everyone locally does their cultural background. Like there's lots of Norwegians in this area, so they make lefse, and all the students kind of come up with a dish that they want to make, or they play music, and those have been really cool nights too.
Nola sacrificed her roast beef night at the rig for Mexican.
Yeah. And that was almost an uprising.
Don't mess with the roast beef.
I was going to say how this building here, the hall, how it like sustains its like power bills and like heating bills and everything is we have a fall supper every year where everyone donates all the food for it.
Now, do you call them fall supper or foul supper?
Fall supper.
Okay.
They used to be called fowls.
They did? Yeah.
They just served chicken or turkeys.
But now we do turkey and ham.
Okay. All right. So
it's called fall.
Yeah. And so everybody from the community donates the food. And then they come here, they buy the food back, eat it, clean it all up, and then go home.
Wow.
And that serves like how many people come to the fall
So
supper?
250 people.
And you probably have a turkey that volunteers to be the dinner and a pig that volunteers to be the dinner. Not that keen, huh?
No, not quite.
So like that's another volunteer.
Right,
thing. Everybody does that.
You mentioned the big house, and that was also built on the backs of volunteerism, and also kids were involved in that, yes? Who wants to?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Lindsay, do that one. I could start it, but you guys take it on.
Yeah.
Well, a few years ago, a local family wanted to donate. They were getting a new house, kind of downsizing, and they offered their house to us as long as we paid for the moving costs to bring it to Hazlet. And so we did that. Yeah, so it's like 100-year-old house and old ranch house that's also been moved a few times. We do like to move houses into
The big house that I saw is that old?
Yeah, but it's not always been here. It's only been here for 5 years, and it's been moved a couple times to different ranches. But yeah, it's a 100-year-old house. Got moved to town in about 2013, and volunteers basically ripped it all apart and kind of refurbished it so it can be a guest house. So Janice and her husband were amazing and painted the entire inside of the house.
And continue to do so.
And still paint. They're back painting again this past couple weeks. And yeah, the kids, we had kids and all sorts of people in there helping. We tore down some lath and plaster walls and redid them with drywall. What else did we
The stucco down.
Yeah, there was old stucco on it, but new insulation.
Roofed it.
So when people come to visit Hazlet, they can just keep cruising right past Swift Current. No need to stay there because the big house is the place to stay when visiting Hazlet.
Yeah.
Right.
It's gorgeous.
What other projects have been?
Well, you can camp out at the regional park. You don't have to stay in the big house.
Right. But
We do have a regional
Pride
park.
and joy.
yes, I've seen photos of the regional park. It's beautiful. Any other major projects that have gone on?
Fire hall and water plant was built with a lot of volunteer help.
Your fire hall?
Right across the street here.
When did you was that the original fire hall or was this one the new one?
The original one sat pretty much right there. And then we moved just down the street there for a little bit and used that building. I don't, what year was that other, Terry?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, somewhere in there. And we tried to get some government grants, and we were never able to get any money from the government. So we just decided we would do some fundraising, and we didn't put the shell up, but we did all the fundraising to get that done, and did a lot of the work on the inside ourselves. So, and then built the water plant on, which we couldn't get any funding for either. So we did the same thing, decided we would take it upon ourselves and basically financed it from the community.
Do you tend to think that it's because that funding isn't easy to get or easily approved that you've been sort of put in the position of having to make this town what it is through volunteer work? Because it's so...
A lot of times that's probably what it comes out of, yeah.
So it's also a story of how you don't necessarily have to rely on funding to get things done. And
it sure helps.
Yeah.
It sure helps, sure, but I mean, it's frustrating to get at the best of times, right?
Yeah, like even the rink, we did get some government grants, but we didn't get enough to. We did all kinds of things, like we sold oranges and grapefruits to lip syncs, to all kinds of things. Anything we could think of to raise money.
There wasn't much that got missed.
No. And when you talk about people volunteering, I don't think there was anybody in the community that wasn't on a committee, one of the committees, from the building committee to fundraising, or like there was.
And you look back, like when that all happened with the rink, we were young kids, so we had to see. We watched our parents and grandparents working on that constantly. So maybe it's just constantly in our mind if that's how it is.
It's part of your culture here.
Yeah, and like I think we've done when I think about why I do anything in this community, I think it's just because they created a nice place that I want to live.
Right.
And I've been lucky that volunteering has been kind of my job. So I get a lot of the highlights of it, but it's really these people that are doing all the background work and doing everything to set us kids up for success, to continue that legacy, to, they've created this awesome community and all these awesome places we use, and they are passing it on to us. So,
and now we have lots of kids coming up. Like, what did Aaron figure out for our age population?
Yeah, so 25% of our population is under 14 right now.
Wow, which is a lot, really.
For only 150 people,
And they're going to inherit their community based on the work that they've put into their community now. I mean, they'll be able to drive around when they're grown up and have children and say, we built this.
Well, I think that's why we like to involve them, because it becomes a social aspect. I think that's how I got to know all of these people in this room, was my parents drug us to the fall supper and made us wash dishes or whatever we had to do. I don't know what it was, but yeah, you have to, I remember loving our rinks also the kitchens ran completely on volunteers the whole winter. And I remember those weeks that were our rink duty weeks, and being a kid, and I couldn't wait to be in the kitchen and take the money from people and, do the transactions and cook a burger. That was a really fun part of the winter. And I think if we can do that to the young people now, then they'll have that same feeling of enjoying that social aspect of volunteering.
And you feel pride when you do stuff within the community.
Do you think that the generation before yours, like, for example, Barry, were your parents, were your grandparents
my grandfather
grew up around here?
My grandfather did everything.
He did everything?
Yeah, did everything.
So it went back even the generation before yours?
Yeah. And I can remember 10 years old when we built the original rink. I didn't build it. I can remember seeing our parents and grandparents doing it, and seeing it go up piece by piece.
So the generation before you were also aware of just how much the volunteers in this community were valued.
For sure. Yeah. My grandfather hauled the mail. He worked on, I don't know how many boards. Every day was an adventure with him, the stuff you did. When I went with him, it was he was always helping somebody do something or bring something for, he'd haul the mail.
Yeah.
So seeing he was going to town in those days,
Yeah.
he brought everything back from a bottle of whiskey to, from the liquor board store to medicine from or bread or whatever. Somebody would needed something that they had there that maybe picked up at the railway station or anywhere in town. While he was waiting for the mail that we took in there to get sorted, he would go around and do all those things. So,
Wow.
so that was how things have always been done.
He would have been thrilled to know that that legacy of volunteerism has continued even today and continues to grow even more.
Well, that's why it's so that is a nice thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'd say
To see Lindsay with the group of high school kids passing that on, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And everybody does that. The town's kids are everybody's kids.
yeah, you're raised by everyone here.
You're raised by everyone
Oh,
here.
yeah.
You guys have like tons of, I know you have a motto officially. Is it value with it? That's right.
One
But
of them-
the official one, the past and the
Proud
future.
of our past, looking
Forward
forward
to a future. But don't stay for the roast beef, could be one. But also there's so many mottos based on volunteerism.
100 years of volunteers is what we did with our RM of Pittville 100-year celebration. And 85th of the town we had on our t-shirts 100 years of volunteers. And I was just going to say, Barry should talk a bit about our Hazlet Elks baseball legacy. There was you'd have to talk about him more because he's the baseball guy, but one of my favorite stories that he says around volunteerism was that he'd go out and hand push the outfield every day before a game, and him and two guys with a push mower and do the whole outfield before a game.
And around the outside and do the whole outfield, me and another fella would do that before ball games and
With a push mower?
2 push mowers, yep.
Do you still have to do that?
Well,
I'd still do it, yep. I still out there with the weed whacker. Now we have a little bigger equipment, most of it, but
All right.
no, that was, and the ball team was something that's been from long before my time, that they had a good baseball team here, and I was privileged to be a bat boy even as a young guy and follow the team, and they were excellent ball players, and then I got the privilege of playing with the team and the diamond that was built out there that we're going to try and resurrect again, and we played against Regina, Saskatoon.
So that's one of the future plans is to resurrect the baseball diamond?
Just to get the kids, to get the young people playing ball again more so. Some of them want, or there's an interest, so if there's an interest, grab it and go.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen from what baseball did to our community back in the day. So they ran a really impressive baseball league or club here.
Yeah.
And you can see on Chad's hat, it's the Hazlet Elks. People wear that with pride.
All right. The
And
Hazlet Elks.
so they were part of a bigger league, the Saskatchewan Baseball League.
We started in the SMBL, or in the local baseball league here, South River Baseball League.
Yeah.
And then they want to take it a level higher, so we started bringing in an American pitcher or two, because we found we were playing so much ball that we didn't have enough pitchers. Everybody's arms tired after you play 2 tournaments on a weekend and a couple league games during the week, and it was just too hard on the amount of pitchers we had. So we brought in American pitching and a little bit of help there, and there was people when we went to a ball tournament coming from miles and miles around just to see this American play ball. You know, they wanted to see him.
Yeah.
And people love baseball, like across the Sandhills, along that line, and all through this country, there's people love to see that. And then another team or two did the same thing, and then we graduated up into played against Regina, Saskatoon, and Moose Jaw, and eventually got to where they won the league. Actually,
3 years in a row.
Yeah, 3 years in a row, and had some excellent teams and played some great baseball. But that brought in a lot of revenue, but it was a big budget to handle, and I think it was partially a casualty of the late 80s there when we were trying to build a rink. There wasn't enough money to go around. It was really tough going in the farming areas, and that was part of the casualty there. The budget was just about too much to handle, and not quite enough younger people. People were having to move away to work even because it was just too tough to make her. So
And I think we've not recognized how much spirit and pride came with that baseball club. And then there, with a growing population now, we've recognized that that would be an awesome community developer and economic developer to have a baseball club again for the young kids and the old. So we're trying to form a new club and raise money and fix up our ball diamonds, which have been a bit in rough shape for the last 10, 20 years. So that's a big plan for this upcoming spring. We have a group of about 23 guys from all over the area here who are going to play. And we have a group of about 10 people who want to be kind of the organizing committee. We've already got, within 2 weeks or a month of trying, we've had $5,000 donated. So we're just kind of going to keep pushing on that to get more donations. Probably throw a few events and get the ball diamonds fixed up. We're not sure if we're going to join the White Mud, or what's it called, Saskatchewan Baseball League. We're probably just going to play some exhibition games this year and then maybe join the league next year. But we think that it'll be an awesome thing for the community because it's an event to go to with the whole family. Sports builds pride, so we want to just keep rolling on that.
So what events do you have planned to raise money for that sort of thing? Is that when you bring in the community theater again for another?
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly.
They need money. Well, we might get some of ours.
Yeah.
Some baseball themed plays.
Yeah, and that's what we've basically just reached out to all, like, tons of businesses, but we've also tapped the shoulders of all the organizations locally who probably had a big hand in it before. So the Lions are on board. They're helping us out. The other organizations are going to help with in-kind, whether it's volunteering or equipment they might have, they're going to help us out. And it'll just be we're all the same. We're different organizations, but we're all doing the same thing, making our community awesome. So.
And I have to keep reminding myself, you are a community most immediately of 126, and I get the feet.
Yeah, we went up in the last.
Is there that many? Did you say? Oh,
I always say 100, but
yeah, we went up in the last census. So yeah, 106.
But you still, to listen to you think I'm standing in a much bigger community for the amount of activity that goes on here. What's another project that we've not talked about that has sort of been built on volunteerism?
Well, I think the Lions should talk a bit about what their organization's all about.
Yes, let's go over to the prez of the Lions, Dustin. We go from the mayor to the president.
I guess lately we've been just doing some smaller fundraisers. Basically, we try to raise a bit of money just to help people in the community that have fallen on harder times. Like if people are traveling for treatments for anything medically or things like that, we're kind of there to try to help people out and to lessen the burden a little bit. And we always have a few bingos a year, and we did a New Year's Eve dance this year, and we do a few things at the annual sports day weekend where we raise some money, and we just try to spread a little bit of the money out to help people that have fallen on hard times, and we donate a little bit like to the ball and that stuff, and just try to help out wherever we can.
Right.
Kids groups and projects like that.
Kids groups.
We try to help out at the school and do some things for the kids there, and like stuff at Christmas and different things. And
a really memorable thing that the Hazlet Lions allowed me to do when I was in high school was go out with Encounters with Canada. So you go to Ottawa for a week and you get to tour around Ottawa and meet people from all over Canada, and they helped pay my flights or something back in the day. So that was a really impressive thing, and they did it for tons of kids going in high school.
You should talk about how your Lions group has grown.
We've
yes.
we were starting to get down in numbers. Guys are getting older. Some guys were more or less retiring. We lost a lot of friends through death and that way too. And we were lucky enough the young guys all stepped up and they had lots of stuff on the go and figured it was a worthy project and joined up. And
how much has your club grown?
We're now up over 30 and we're probably down below 20. We're sitting at about 32 now, and we were probably getting down 18-ish, I would guess, at one time.
Right.
So without them, it wouldn't happen, and they're always good. Anybody would always help. Like, you don't necessarily have to be a member to help. But we have been smart enough to relax rules a bit too. Some of the older clubs are set in their ways, and they don't understand that people are busy. Like, all these people make a living, they have families. Everybody usually are wearing at least two hats. A lot of people are working and farming.
Well, that's
There's only so much time to go around.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're talking about volunteers, but you all have lives.
This is our life.
So is that really what this becomes?
Because we're like a big family, and that's kind of what we do, I think.
Right. So is it that volunteerism becomes your lifestyle here, and you fit your real life in around volunteer?
That's a lot of it, I think, in this community.
I'll see if I can fit some work in.
But it's a big part of our social life.
Yeah. But there must be times when things are, that things can get really frustrating if you're out in the field, or you're out in the oil patch and you've got work and you've got responsibilities. Is it hard sometimes to fit in those?
A lot of our projects though have to fit in around seeding and harvest.
Oh, right.
And, we don't plan things in those busy times.
Right.
Because everyone is busy.
Right.
But then we need some playtime when all that work's done. And
yeah. Are there any other projects we've not yet talked about that have been?
Yeah, I think we should talk about our Hazlet Sports Day.
Sorry, let me get back over here. So we're going to talk about which?
So there's a annual weekend every year during Father's Day weekend in June, and it's a Sports Day family fun weekend. And that is the entire community comes together to do that. There's different organizations that run different parts of it. So there's one main committee that kind of does the beginning organization, but then the Lions do the parade. Barry's a great parade master, and they all, it's important.
And you build floats and everything for
it's starting to gain some momentum again. I think it kind of went, like the original people who used to do big extravagant floats kind of like have dissipated, but now there's some more groups coming together to get creative. A good friend of mine's been working on a little pony-drawn wagon for the last 2 months that she's just finishing up. She's excited to take that on the parade. But another really cool part of the weekend is it's mostly spent out at the Hazlet Regional Park, which is a little hidden gem. But the Lions host the Sandhills Relay, which is a 4-person relay, and I'll let someone else tell the rest about it.
Dustin, you want to talk about that?
Or Chad.
I'd like Chad to speak to that.
Yeah.
Chad's wearing the shirt.
Let me run back over to
What a
Chad.
surprise.
Run back over to Chad here.
You show this to
Oh,
the
you're a
podcast.
walking billboard.
So, okay.
All right.
As you guys can see on this podcast,
Yes. Picture, if you will.
there's a canoe in some water, and there's 2 people canoeing. And then the canoers will canoe to a runner, and then the runner will run into a number 9 flagpole. That's what it looks like on the old T-shirt.
You must run into it.
You must run into it. You get stars. Then you go to the man sweating riding a bike. And he goes from the golf course to the regional park and then back, and then all 4, the runner and the biker, hop into the canoe. That's when it gets exciting. Usually a lot of people sink at this time.
Now, there is water here in Hazlet, so...
At the regional park, there's a little spring there.
Reservoir.
Reservoir. And then you canoe back to the regional park, and you run out, and then you ring a gong, and what you win is a T-shirt. And if you win the whole thing, you just win pride.
Right.
That's
okay.
Rights for you.
Yep.
Bragging rights.
And the prizes are donated, likely.
There is no prize.
Oh,
That's actually what you win.
you actually win the T-shirt.
Say what it's called?
everybody gets.
It's called the Hazlet Sandhills Relay. The Lions Hazlet Sandhills Relay.
And how many years has it been running?
And my shirt says, I survived
Yes.
the Hazlet Sandhills Relay. And then this is the Centennial T-shirt. That's back in the 13th annual.
Or the Tin Man, really.
Yeah.
It's not an Iron Man, it's a little less weaker metal. They
Yeah,
call
but
it.
you still have to run into the number 9 ball.
How many years?
We started it in 92.
All right.
And we've missed maybe 4 years in there because of weather.
Right. Is word out with all of this stuff that you guys have going on? Is word out in the communities like Swift Current and beyond that this stuff is happening? And are a lot of people coming in specifically for this?
I would say so. Like this event specifically, a lot of people who grew up here, like Janice's kids or Barry's kids, live in Swift Current or other communities, and so they bring their campers and come for the weekend for the sports day. Yeah, and there's Hazlet people all over Saskatchewan and the world, and they always make time to come back and give back in any ways they can, or just attend for a weekend. And it's
an annual reunion.
Yeah, that's true.
For young people,
Yeah.
they love to come back.
And you have to support the communities around you too when they have their functions and stuff.
Yeah.
We try.
You can't be snobs.
No,
Yeah.
you have to support them.
because they
support
help
too.
us.
Yeah.
They help us too.
Right.
It's a whole area thing. It's not just.
So what's the next sort of major community over from here where you would be most interacting with?
Abby.
Abby a
I'd
lot.
say.
We-
Abby's our little partner in crime. They go back and forth between them for everything, and on spills and fundraisers. And
So this is infectious.
We try to support everybody around too as
Yeah.
well.
Cabring.
Cabri and Gull Lake are our other neighbors, and everybody works together.
And we go into Swift. Sometimes you get random Swift Current people out here too, and
Yeah.
they support us. Like my wife works in Swift Current, so when we do have a production here, at the plays, they'll bring the Cypress Health Region out here for the Christmas party and
Oh, yeah.
watch a show. So that's how we can get them out.
Right.
That's good when the big city folk come to
Yeah.
us tiny towners.
Well, you guys, again, I can't help but think you guys have a big city feel about it for the amount of things that you have going on. And you move a lot of houses here. So there's a lot of, like everything. Really? Everything I drove by, this was moved here, and this one was moved here. This hall that we're in was moved here.
This was a.
Is there anything in town that actually was built here?
My house.
Your house was? Right. But is a large part of the, I mean, is there an influx of people coming into the community? Are these people returning back to Hazlet?
Mostly, I would say, but a mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, the town's full.
The town's full.
There's no
We
lots.
need more houses.
Right. So
More lots.
when you, I don't know a lot about moving house. When you move a house, do you need volunteers involved in making that happen?
We usually hire professionals.
Okay. All right. So,
Usually the neighbors help.
Know how to do that.
right.
We had the pleasure to have George Reed sit pretty close to where we're sitting right now, and several other sports stars have come.
For G. Roy Simon, Darren Durant, Henry Burris.
Corb Lund.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, have some wonderful functions.
Yeah. I'd say that was a big thing, Carla. Well, I'm just speaking to like the last 12 years because that's kind of when I realized that volunteering was a thing and that it was an important part to be part of your community.
Yeah.
And I'd say a big part of that went back in the day was Carla did a lot of music events here. So we brought in really big names and had events. So you can talk about that, Carla.
You've done that at the park too.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked to a guy and he said, "Do you want Corb Lund?" And I was like, "How do I do that in this town?" And then they said they worked it out. So we had 2 shows, a morning show and then an afternoon show or an afternoon show and a night show. And they came here. That was our first big one
At the Bethany?
right here in the
Oh, right here in the hall.
Yeah. And then from that, I got in contact with a few other artists and they played down at the park. We had Julian Austin,
Aaron
Aaron Prichette,
Brad Johnner.
Brad Johnner.
So you're on the concert tour circuit now.
Yeah. Well, every year they call me like, "Do you want these guys?" And once you could do it, it opens people's eyes. Like I remember when I first started, everyone's like, "How are you going to make that back?" I'm like, I don't know. Let's try. And then it worked out, and then it opened everyone's eyes up to be like, awesome, we can do stuff like this.
You have lots of local talent too.
Yeah. We have tons of local talent. Yeah.
So, but it sounds like when you have those kinds of initiatives, you sort of have to be fearless and just going, well, we don't know how it's going to work out, but the opposite is not trying at all, right?
I'm not anymore.
You're not.
But a lot of our
You're no longer fearless?
No, I just
a lot of our projects were kind of risks, like I would say.
All risks.
Yeah.
Right.
Taking on a $500,000 project in this town was a big risk.
Right.
We're working it out still, but even the big house, the guest house we moved in, we didn't know what we were doing with it when we got it, but it's now worked out to be an amazing thing that we have accommodations here.
Oh, and our thrift shop that we run from there is totally volunteer.
Right.
And everyone donates, and it pays for itself.
Yeah.
Like, sustains the house. And that's another volunteer thing.
You said something, you said about 12 years ago you realized volunteerism was a thing. But you also volunteered when you were growing up here. So when you're young, are you aware that you're involved in this thing called volunteerism, or is it just what you do?
I don't think I was like,
It was part of life.
yeah,
It was just part of life. You weren't sat down and given the volunteer talk.
Your parents drug you into town and said, okay, we need to do this.
Yeah.
Just natural.
You just did it.
Yes.
Right.
And we need your help. Yeah.
So it's just not even a question. You just
a given.
do. It's a
Usually it was
given.
last minute. We always like to do things at the last minute. Get a lot more done when it's rushed.
Well, especially if there's a risk. If there's risk taking, doing it last minute means you don't have to think about it too hard, because if you did, you might change your mind.
I think we all love living here.
Yeah.
And if we didn't do this,
Yeah.
we wouldn't live here. We wouldn't be able to. There'd be nothing.
There'd be no reason to be here.
You have to volunteer to live here.
There's your motto.
yeah,
There's
that's
your
our motto.
That's very true.
I don't think we would do it if it wasn't fun.
You wouldn't do it if it wasn't.
Well, no, I mean,
Clearly, you guys are having fun.
Well, yeah,
Work, but
it's work, but when everybody pitches in and you have lots of good laughs and have
I was just thinking
and you
about
accomplish things.
they built on for the new plant on the back of the rink, and it was like so cold out. It was like
Minus $1 million.
so cold. And one of the older carpenter guys was up there. He said, I'm not swinging a hammer today. I'm going to tell everyone what to do and stuff. And he was up there. I saw him on the roof, and he was building something. And then he's like, well, who did this? And he's like, somebody and he's standing on that roof.
Yay, I get to use my bleep button.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
He's standing up there and he says that, and then he steps back. He's like, "Oh, it was me." and then someone said, "You're not supposed to be up there working," and I was just like, "That's so." And it was fun, even though we're all freezing.
Right.
It was still fun. Yeah. And to learn from them, and
I was going to say that too. Is like, I guess it's not always like there's parts of events that you don't necessarily want to volunteer first for, like the dishes or the cleanup after isn't always
Oh,
fun.
yeah. So is there a rush to get to the things that are most fun? And
Well, I think there's people like you just when you look at whenever all the events happen, there are people who do certain jobs more than others.
Right.
Whether it's the cooks, like I know I never get asked to bring real food for the fall suppers. I usually get asked for the pickles or the dishes, but
is that because you have a reputation that precedes you?
I think they just know I'd probably just ask my mom to cook it if I had to cook something. She's the good cook.
Okay.
But I'd say lots of the things we started doing in this community was because of a personal interests and group interests. Like live music is something our family's always loved, and that kind of came. Carlos started bringing music in because why not have it in your back door or your backyard, other than having to drive 45 minutes or 3 hours to go to a concert? Why couldn't we have it here? And I think that's what we, what other stuff you guys like?
But even like the bad jobs, like the cleanup after fundraisers, and we seem to turn that into a social event in itself. That's usually where you have your biggest laughs and have your most fun.
What's the job that sucks the most that winds up being the most fun? Cleaning.
Yeah, just clean up after events.
Right.
You usually get a pretty good group of people to come in, and it's usually pretty fun. So
There's a lot of people that will do the big stuff, and
Yeah.
then there's actually quite a few people that don't want to do the big stuff, but they'll come in and clean up.
Right.
And it's all, if maybe.
Really?
Maybe they
Yeah.
couldn't come to the event, but they could show up the next day, so they'll come the next day and help.
Truly.
Oh, sure.
Another bizarre thing, I remember Terry 1 or Terry 2?
Terry one.
He used to always say how when we have our community cleanups, we have one cleanup every year for the town, and who are the people that show up?
Same ones that show up for the park.
Well, it's not just the town people who are coming in to do town cleanup, it's everyone in the whole area. The farmers come in and help just to help get the town cleaned up for
That's
the
amazing.
beginning of the year. It's hilarious.
So,
It's the same people.
but not with a sense of resentment. I mean, you essentially know you're going in for a party after the party's over.
At the mayor's.
Even if you don't agree with a project,
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with the project, I think if the quorum believes in the project,
Yeah.
you should give your head a shake and just pitch in and help, and that's
Yeah,
kind of
'cause-
what people do.
Sometimes you may not believe in the project.
You might think maybe we're stepping out a little too far, but
Yeah.
if there's enough people willing to do it, and why not get at it and help?
So you don't go, well, tough, I'm not getting involved in this then.
I say that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're going to do it then. If you want to do it, do it. And then I
But you'll
still
end
do
up
it.
helping.
So you delegate and then go back in anyway. So you all sort of become your own little control freaks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And there's certain people you want to work with and you don't want to work with. Well, not that you don't want to work with. There's groups that work super well together. And we all kind of just go off and do our little sections. And like, I would never want to take over the parade. That's the Lions thing, and they do it so good. And that's
So you kind of have to know your place within volunteerism
Not necessarily.
No?
but
if they had some good ideas, we'd say, have at it, girls.
yeah, you'd be like, here you go.
Liven it up a little bit. Maybe we're too old because all we do is gather up our candy and give it out to the kids.
But they love it.
That's just like Santa Claus. Eh?
So
Gotta
why
love
would you
it.
change it?
Seeing the smile on their face when you're chucking all the candy and giving it out to everybody in the parade, and that's great sport.
So you guys are the sage people when it comes to offering advice to communities that don't have going on what you guys have going on. So what do you? No, I know you're shaking your head. No, not really. But if a community is struggling to make happen what you guys are having happen, what are the steps to get there?
You have to have pride.
You got to have pride, okay,
Well, I
right?
think you have to have the belief in yourself too. Like I think a lot of people would just say, "Well, what's in Hazlet? You're at the end of a highway. You have 100 people. What?" But I think of it. We just have always believed that can provide a good quality of life for people.
Yeah.
We offer a lot of fun here, and everyone in town believes that, and we project that, and that's why we have had success.
I just want to say to the people out there, hey, just come and see what Hazlet has to offer. We're at the end of the highway.
Right.
It's easy to find if you hit gravel road.
Just don't follow your GPS. Do not listen to Siri.
You have to have a good support system to do it.
Right.
Like when we said that I brought in Cortland, I couldn't have done that without 20 people
Right.
being like, okay, let's do this. You know?
But you were raised on this, so this was. But for people that don't have this established yet, is the element of being fearless really key to it? Like, I mean, do you just really have to because you go, how do we do? Where do we start? We would like to have a fundraiser. What in the world? Where do you start to do that?
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Well, we can help.
Just getting started.
Call us up.
1-800-HAZLET.
Yeah. But I think the communication's always been really good.
Yeah.
I think we've improved. Well, like I said again, I'm talking about the last 12 years that I actively remember being
Right.
active community member.
Right.
But, we have communication from the mayor all the way down to the school, right? So there's all the organizations we try to keep good representation on each board of people who are going to keep people talking, and everyone jumps on board for whatever project it is. And I think as long as we talk things out and
I know I've probably cried and yelled and fought with all of these people here because I get a little emotional, but I think it just comes down to pride and we want to have
wanting to do the best.
Yeah, so it's
And you can see the mentality at a function or the planning stages. You walk into a room and there's a table of people anywhere from 15 years old to 95 years old sometimes. And like, even if you go to a function, every table has such a diverse age, like everybody knows everybody. So, and everybody's friends. It doesn't matter how old you are or where you're from or who you are.
Right. No elitism going on here.
Yeah.
Right. Have you had projects that have completely flopped, but went, oh, well, we won't do that again?
We've had a perfect track record.
You've had a perfect track record of things flopping?
Never got beat.
No?
Horrible. No.
We've lost not terrible amounts of money, but
No.
Well, usually we've usually broke even on
yeah, that's true.
right.
Sometimes it's not
It
successful.
might have been a very large project and lots of work, and at the end of the day, we didn't end up with a bunch of money, but how do you measure the
It's
fun?
not always about the money.
It's not always about the money.
No, it's just about getting together and having a good time sometimes. Sometimes we don't try to make money at everything. It's
When we
just,
built the original rink, I was with Terry on the fundraising committee, and believe me, that wasn't a horrible job. We spent hours and hours doing lots of different things, and a lot of different functions, but man, did we have a pile of fun in the process. It was worth every bit of it.
Right.
And like you talked to hauling boxes of oranges and grapefruits all over southern Saskatchewan, and to even with the Lions, we catch rainbow trout out of the reservoir for years and would deliver them all over the country. And we could write a book on all the fun. Yeah, batteries and tires.
Has anybody written a book on all the fun? I mean, you guys could literally write the handbook on volunteerism.
Chapter 13 podcast.
And it's the group, and it is a pride. Like Chad's parents had a lot to do with starting the Tin Man Rally. It was their baby, and it'd have to be a monsoon before we'd cancel it, because he would never. It would have to be a monsoon before he would cancel that.
Yeah, we'd still do the relay.
We'd make her
as
through the
long as
mud.
It was still raining and there was
You'd
3
still
foot
have it.
waves and we were still out there.
And when it's been suggested to cancel it at times, I have said, nope, we can't cancel it unless it gets a lot worse. You never want to cancel
even
it.
our cafe is run on volunteers.
Yep.
You probably, a lot of volunteer help through the years. It's owned by the village, but
Which is that?
the cafe.
The cafe, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that built by volunteers?
Moved in. We moved it in.
You moved it in. Of course you did.
Well, part of it came from the Bethany.
What's the name of the cafe, the official name?
He's like Cafe.
Oh, is it? No, this isn't.
very original.
That's what it is, yeah, right.
So someone leases it. It was built
That's
by
their name.
volunteerism. I think these guys all did tons of
The
work.
village owns it, but
Yeah,
through
it gets
the-
very good reviews.
yeah, it's we've had a lot of really good cooks through the years, but there's been periods when there isn't anybody there actually running it, and it just kind of everybody knows where the key is, so they open it up and make coffee and.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Still going on.
Yeah.
In the afternoon, that's what they do.
Do you have to lock your doors in Hazlet?
Not really, but.
Wow, those communities great. Actually, we've had some break. Oops.
Always locked.
We've had some break-ins, but we've had a lot of fun doing it.
Don't laugh.
Why?
Halloween night, I had people in my house.
But you must have known who it was.
I knew exactly who was coming in my door. I was still
Right.
in bed. But I heard the lock on my door
Was this a
open.
prank, or were they
Oh, no. They came, to visit on trick or drinking
trick or drinking?
in the middle of the night.
Well, yeah, but
And knew the code on my door.
Then you needed to change it.
So it narrows it down to
Not
who's,
much sense.
who's
Okay.
breaking
so
in.
you don't really have any need for any of those indoor video
No,
cameras and things
no.
like that, because you pretty much can narrow it down.
I knew who they were.
It'd be like, what is Terry doing in my house?
Well, actually, it was Barry.
Is this the kind of fun, just witnessing you guys talking about it, that you have when the events are on?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You bet.
You know, those Hungarians, they should come here and just volunteer with us.
Well, it sounds like if they don't, you'll wind up having kids come from there as part of the international school program.
That would be great. That would be great.
We haven't had a student from Hungary.
How do you find out about the program?
Ask Lindsay.
ChinookSask.com.
Okay. For a little plug. The Bethany, we haven't really talked about that. I mean, I know that's your baby, but
Yeah.
have you had to bring in volunteer help to make that what it is right now?
Yeah, so the Bethany is a business. It's owned by myself and my business partner, Erin McKnight, her husband as well.
It's the old Lutheran church.
Yeah, so it's a historical Lutheran church.
It was moved here.
It was moved here. Of course. But yeah, it's now a social house, so it's a live concert venue. We want to host weddings or wedding showers, and it's kind of a work in progress. And we're just taking it year by year as we get going here. But we are calling on the community a lot to help us there, even as a business. And people always tend to show up, just like the community cafe, which is a business, but it's very much operated on a community basis where, there's been people come in and do a full new paint job just because to keep the business going. So I have lots of people helping me at the Bethany. We have local talent who perform there for free. We have my sister Carla here and other friends help bartend or clean up, set up. I've had probably all of these people up there and if I haven't had them there yet, they're probably going to get a shoulder tap soon to come help me rip a carpet out or build a new building.
And Saskatchewan Artists.
Haunted house. Yeah, we ran a haunted house.
Oh, you have a haunted house
We had
in
a haunted
there?
house in there one year. And we had people, old and young, scaring the living crap out of anyone who would tour it.
Nice. And that space is available.
Yeah, it did.
That space is available for touring artists in Saskatchewan outside of this area.
The Bethany Social House.
Yeah.
And if you're a touring artist from Canada
Yeah.
or anywhere else, come on through, get in touch with us.
You know you will, because artists can't find enough places to perform. So that's really fantastic.
Yeah, and it's a really great thing that's bringing lots of different culture and music to the community as well. We host them here as well for big shows, and we've had lots of interesting artists come through, and it's been a interesting thing to see. A lot of out-of-towners come to that, and I love when the local people show up and they're like, who the heck are all these people? And who is this band from, Nova Scotia that's coming through?
Have you had a band from Nova Scotia?
No, I think we had one from, no, maybe there was someone from Nova Scotia.
Yeah, with the lawnmower. With his.
Oh, no, they were from Ontario.
We have to do a whole Bethany podcast
Yeah.
of its own, or at least something where the roast beef dinner is going on.
That won't be there. Yeah.
No, that won't be there. That'll be here.
That's
But
like my biggest.
I'm just already thinking of next time I come back, what we'll do it on.
Excuse the pun, but that's my biggest beef with trying to take on new projects is
Yeah.
I never want to serve a roast beef and potatoes meal myself, and everyone else loves it. So
And there's so many people.
yeah.
And it's so good.
I'm guessing there's no
Everyone-
vegetarians in
yeah.
Hazlet.
There's been a couple here.
Terry's hosted a lot of international students.
Have you? Terry, talk about the hosting of these international students. It's a pretty cool experience, right?
Yep, it makes the world smaller.
Yeah.
And we've hosted 8 students, and we've been to South Korea once, and
Uh-huh. How many languages do you know now?
one.
Really? They don't teach you any?
Well, they come to learn English.
Oh, okay, right.
That's my story.
I guess so, right. Yeah, right.
So, yeah, interesting to learn their cultures, and
And you've got to volunteer to host students?
well, we get paid
Oh, you do?
a little bit.
Okay, an honorarium
Yeah.
sort of thing? Right.
But
What countries have you hosted?
oh God, don't go there.
I can help you.
South Korea, China,
Colombia.
Colombia, and New Zealand.
What a shock for them, culture shock when they get here.
Yeah, we always joke that their national, the booking agents tell them that community of 100, so they're thinking 100,000.
Oh.
And we bring them here to show the darkness, and then when they wake up the next morning, they're looking out their windows and they're shocked that they can actually see
the whole town.
See nothing.
Yeah. Right.
So.
Right. That's
it is quite the sight to see when you bring a kid and they land into Saskatoon and they go, oh, this isn't bad, and then drive.
Right. When they get here, yeah, right. Right.
Because they think Saskatoon's a tiny little town compared to where they come from.
And how quickly do you find they assimilate in the community and roll up their sleeves and get right in there with helping with the dishes after a dinner?
Well, usually it's just like how I grew up, where we just drag them here and put them to work.
Okay.
So it'd be right away.
Right.
If they liked it or not.
They like it. I would say that.
Usually they become a community member.
It usually doesn't take long.
No,
It's a pleasure to put a set of skates on somebody.
Well, and you
That's
said they
never
come back to
nice.
visit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've come back to visit?
Oh, yeah.
Tons.
Lots.
We had a reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how many kids came back? There wasn't a ton, maybe 14 or 15 of them came back.
Right.
But it is exceptional to see how, like, Terry and his wife went for their student from South Korea. They went, his wife's been out to Vancouver where he lives now, their student, and visited him there. And they also went to his wedding in South Korea. And there's been lots of stories like that of people going all over the world to visit the students they've hosted. A family that's hosted maybe 13 kids here locally. They went to South Africa and met up with a student that lived with them from Germany, and they did a whole 3-week tour there with them. And it's wild when they, and they come back and visit and bring their new spouses or the rest of their family. One of our girls from Switzerland actually came back for the reunion, and her family came as well, and they shipped their motorhome from Switzerland to the east coast of Canada, and they drove it here, and there was a Swiss motorhome here for our sports day weekend. It was crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You guys are like the greatest walking tourist billboard for coming to visit the place as well. You are an amazing representation of the pride that you have in this community is just palpable standing here, which is so great.
Do you want to move here?
Well, I saw the house that's for sale, and it's actually pretty nice. Mm-hmm. So, well, at the very least, I got to come back to stay at the big house and do another podcast episode.
Attend an event.
And attend an event, absolutely. I came on the weekend where everything is closed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, including the cafe.
Yeah.
Should come next weekend.
Why? What happens next weekend?
We have our annual Hazlet Economic Development Committee's fundraiser here, and we have a comedian coming. And
you guys could be your own comedian.
We have a few of those,
Yeah.
This hall will transform by next weekend, and it'll be decorated, and it'll have like 100 auction items. You saw the beginnings of them over there, but
Donated by volunteers?
donated by businesses, people,
Farmers.
Yeah.
local individuals,
Yeah.
and it honestly transforms in here. The whole stage will be decorated with items, and we have a guy who comes in and volunteers his time to auction for us, and we have volunteers in the kitchen doing all that preparation.
And is this to all generate revenue for the town?
Yep. So
Village.
It usually raises about $20,000 to $25,000 a year.
Nice.
And that goes back to whatever project the Economic Development Committee is doing.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we partner up with like the rink or
The village.
the village.
Yeah. The park. Basically, it's anything. The money is raised and we distribute it to
Yeah.
whatever project's needed at that time.
Right.
And that's what I kind of tell people is anything that makes Hazlet better, that's what our committee does. And
Yeah.
we work with all the other committees and anything to make Hazlet more awesome than it is.
It's pretty awesome.
We also coordinate with the other villages around us, so we don't try and book like our bond spiels
Right.
or our events on the same weekend.
Sure. See, meeting you guys has been so terrific. I'm so thrilled that I made the ride. That you wanted to say on
Thank
the
you for
subject?
coming here.
Thanks for the opportunity. That's great.
Well, it's
Part of our success is just letting the country and the province and the world know about our little village that can here. And Hazlet has it, and we invite anybody to come visit. And we have a great group of people here, and everybody does a lot of teamwork to make a successful, sustainable community here.
Yeah. So come in and roll up your sleeves and move a building if you'd like. Thank you all so much for taking the time on a gorgeous day to come hang out with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
And that, my friends, is a slice of life in Hazlet. So tell me, what fuels the culture in your community? Who has a story that must be heard? Consider bringing SaskScapes to your part of the province. Email us at saskapes@gmail.com or find us on Facebook. Please share your thoughts on this episode or any of the episodes by writing a review in the iTunes Store or Google Play. Your star ratings help our audience grow. Remember, our stories are our legacy. Now, somewhere around the world for years to come, stories like those found in SaskScapes are being heard. Think about it. We're creating an oral archive so that who we are in this province is never forgotten. I'm Kevin Power. Join me again next time.